What up? What up? What up? Welcome into another post-game live edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Maneikis. What's going on, my friend? Celtics up 3-1. Let's go.
Feeling good about that, man. The Hawks had me worried just for a little bit tonight that they might actually make that 2-2, but the better team prevailed in the end.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling when we get to hop on here when the Celtics are able to lock in that W. Obviously, we didn't come to y'all on Friday night after Game 3 when the Celtics slipped up a bit. And it was honestly, man, that was a really interesting game. It's very rare you see the Celtics shoot over 40% and not come out with a victory.
Yeah, well, let's touch on Game 3 for a second here, because we did not have a live stream. Although I'm going to say for myself, I did ask Will. I said, Will, do we want to go live after Game 3? And I think that's the reason why we lost Game 3 is because Will said, nah.
Wow, you're putting your boy on the spot here.
I'm putting this on
it
you.
on me.
I'm putting this on you.
All right.
That's
all right. I see the juju
Celtics,
we bring into the pod tonight. All right, let's talk.
That's why the Boston Celtics lost Game 3 is because Will did not want to live stream on his Friday night. I jest. But in Game 3, I just think that, when the Celtics come out and they hit too many threes early, it's almost fool's gold for them because then they start not playing defense. They didn't play a lick of defense the entirety of Game 3. They took no pride in boxing out on the glass, as we saw Joe Mazzulla in his post-game presser for Game 3 saying, just get a fucking rebound. And that's what the Celtics did tonight. They rebounded the ball a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, the Game 3 was really weird in the sense that, and we'll touch on this here a little bit as we get deeper into this podcast, but especially when you look around at what else is happening, in the Eastern Conference, the Celtics not taking pride on the defensive end was really the most glaring thing to me, especially when you score 122 points, you knock down 21 threes, you got to be able to get dubbed, right? That's just kind of, especially when you hang your hat on the defensive side of the ball, is that being part of your identity, part of your reputation. And, I was rewatching that game this morning because part of the reason we didn't live stream afterwards was kind of in and out, been able to watch it in the moment. And man, DeJounte Murray and Trae Young just got in the lane whenever they wanted in that game. They were getting paint touches very, very consistently themselves. I think between the two of them, they had over 30 points on drives at a high efficiency rate just in that game alone. And so tonight, it just felt like a much more professional approach. Do you think that's the right word to put it? It was a more professional approach, it felt like, in tonight's game from the Celtics.
Yeah, they were just more locked in, especially chasing guys over the screen. I thought Jaylen Brown did a great job covering DeJounte Murray. DeJounte went nuts, and he started off the game tonight going nuts. But in Game 3, I was really, really impressed with DeJounte. His three-point shot, which has not always been a strength of his, looks really smooth in the postseason thus far. And just like his, we saw it in the summertime when he got into that little scruff with Paolo Banchero. We were just like, man, like I didn't really know DeJounte Murray was like seemingly about this life of being like a dog and wanted to get grimy. And it seems like DeJounte is the one guy on the Hawks that's ready to get grimy with the Jays and mix it up with them.
Yeah, DeJounte's a hooper. You said he had a couple moments in this game where I thought he was going to get super hot again and was going to be a problem, especially early on. But with that, let's do what we do here, and let's go ahead and let's queue up a morning box score here. Morning box score, Boston Celtics take a commanding 3-1 series lead, heading back to the TD Garden on Tuesday night to try to close it out. If you're going to the game, get there early, get loud. Let's get this series wrapped up. Celtics win tonight, 129-121 down in Atlanta. Let's start with the Hawks like we always do. And they had a couple guys play some of their top tier games that we've seen here. Trae Young, 35 points, 11 of 26 from the field, got to the line 11 times to go along with 15 assists. 35 points, 15 assists game, and the Hawks don't get a dub. Not great. DeJounte Murray, 23 points, 9 rebounds for him, 6 assists. Big DeAndre Hunter game tonight, 27 points and 7 rebounds. But as we said, not enough to take down the Boston Celtics. Flip it over to the other side. We know what happens when Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum go for over 30 points each. What do, Greg?
They get dubs.
They get dubs. That's fucking right. Let's go. 31 points for Jaylen Brown tonight, 4 rebounds, 3 assists on his full future game. fuck it, mask off tonight for Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum, 31 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Al Horford, no points, but did have 11 rebounds here. That did jump out to me. Bunch of Celtics in double digits here tonight. We got 18 points for Derek White, 19 points for Marcus Smart to go along with 4 rebounds and 4 assists, 14 for Malcolm off the bench, and a really, really impressive 13 points and 15 rebounds for Robert Williams tonight, aka Lob Williams. Greg, you mentioned it. Celtics rebounded like shit in game 3, out rebounded by 19 against the Hawks in that game. This tonight, they come out, they actually win the rebounding battle only by 1, but that's all you got to do with this team and the way that they play. They win the rebounding battle 53-52 and also win the points in the paint 56-44. Celtics up 3-1, Greg. Where you want to start with it tonight?
Let's start with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, you mentioned how he took the mask off sometime in the second quarter of the game, and I had been texting with you just how JB looked like he was in his head. I was getting worried about his shot. His shot mechanics looked so out of whack over the last couple of weeks. And looking at his like game logs, the numbers aren't that bad when you actually look at the shooting numbers, but just the feel of that shot, it just looked almost broken, to be honest with you. And I tweeted out, I was like, you can just feel JB pressing right now. Like he needs to let the game come to him. Well, he didn't let the game come to him. What he did was he said, fuck it. And he took the mask off. And he was just like, I'm just going to go out there and hoop, man. Like the mask had like X amount of buckets in it. I have reached the amount of buckets that was in that mask. We need to get rid of that mask and just go back to regular JB.
Yeah, that's the I think it was Isaiah Thomas was the first time I heard that, where it's like, you changed your shoes. What happened? They ran out of buckets. Just got to switch it up sometimes when you're not feeling it. And it really did, because I know we were texting on the side in our group chat, being a little bit concerned about the way Jaylen Brown was playing early on in this game. And I think throughout the series, even though, like you said, some of the numbers don't look that bad, you can tell that he's certainly pressing at times, and that he keeps seemingly flexing that hand. And so I even tweeted out, I don't know if it's a physical thing or if it's just a mental thing, but it seemed to be that maybe because of the mask being something that took him a minute to get used to and had started to be, now it just became maybe a little bit sensory overwhelming. Mask, hand, what am I focusing on? So just remove one of them. And in this case, it was the mask. And it really felt like it was 2 different Jaylen Browns that we saw tonight, pre-mask and then post-mask in this game tonight. And he was really, really good. 12 of 22, knocked down 3 of 4 threes, got to the line 5 times, had 4 rebounds, 3 assists. And I think a really big part of this was 2 turnovers. And I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to assume it was probably pre-mask, when he had the mask on, is when those 2 turnovers took place. But it really was good to see Jaylen Brown. I feel like he was getting back on track, even though the numbers suggested he never really left that path.
Absolutely. And if you look at his numbers from the first 3 games here, he had 6 turnovers in game 1, 4 turnovers in game 2, and 3 turnovers in game 3. So that was definitely part of the JB struggles. And I think that is, a lot of credit to the Hawks' length and DeJounte Murray just being a pretty good on-ball defender. Because coming into the series, we've had some conversations about whether or not the Hawks actually have the recipe to be a good defensive team. I know Adam is just kind of just out on them being a good defensive team. To me, I see the length that they can throw out there. I was throwing out some lineups that might work for them, all like no Trae Young lineups. And when you see like the length that they can actually put on the floor, and even a Bogdanovich, although he fouled out tonight, he can get pretty nasty. He's a physical defender. He definitely has some limitations, but he's going to fight. So when they have DeJounte at the 1, Bogdanovich at the 2, then they got Hunter, Okongwu, and Bey. Like, if that lineup got more run together, that's a pretty individual. I think individually those are some pretty good defenders. So JB was definitely struggling with the Hawks. He actually doesn't have good numbers playing against Atlanta in general. I don't know if it's because that's a hometown thing or whatever it is.
Extra pressure, maybe something like that.
Yeah, he normally doesn't play like great against the Hawks. So it was great to see JB get back into the swing of things tonight. And once he took that mask off, things just started to click for him. He hit that 3-pointer at the top of the key, and then he finished it off with a 3-pointer in the corner to end the game.
Yeah, that was great having him with the exclamation mark to kind of send the game home. Looking around here, a few other guys that I really want to touch on is, it felt like Tatum and Brown really stepped up kind of towards the end of the game. Tatum got relentless at going downhill towards the end of the game, which was great to see. And Jaylen Brown was doing that a lot of the second half as well, too. Like I mentioned, he only took 4 3-point shots out of his 22 field goal attempts. So the 2 of them definitely at different points, each were making emphasis to get downhill. But I think leading up to that, between Derek White, Marcus Smart, and Robert Williams, as we were going into the fourth, I was like, man, this feels like the three of them have really kind of leveled the ship for the Celtics in this game. And then you got what you needed from the Jays to really send this thing home. Of course, they end up with 62 points, but the Derek White, Marcus Smart, and Robert Williams performances in this game, I think were the key causes as to what got to the Celtics of where they needed so the Jays could come in and close the door.
Yeah, let's do a quick couple minutes on Smart here,
Yeah.
because I think Smart's often the forgotten guy with the Celtics this year with all the new pieces that we have. Everybody loves Derek White. We love Derek White. Everybody loves Robert Williams and the promise that he brings to the team. Malcolm Brogdon just winning Sixth Man of the Year. And for Smart, it just wasn't really a great season. So to see him through 4 games really shine and have his moments where he's looking at Trae Young, he's looking at DeJounte Murray or whoever is in front of him, he's like, get the fuck out of my way. I can take every single one of these guys. He's had a couple great moments guarding DeJounte, a couple great moments guarding Trae. He had that one awesome play today where Bogdanovich was kind of getting into his face a little bit and Smart just called a clear out and dunked on him.
Yep.
Like those types of plays out of Marcus Smart, especially after the last game where he fell on his tailbone. Today, he sprains his ankle and he plays through it all. And, with Marcus playing at this level, it speaks volumes to the fact that Joe Mazzulla over the last 2 games has said, even with Marcus playing this good, I'm going to, in crunch time, sit Marcus for stints that I normally wouldn't sit Marcus. I also want to touch on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a big thing for us to talk about because that's something you and I have touched on throughout the season. As will that be something that Joe is willing to do? And, because and it's not even necessarily, I mean, we're praising Marcus Smart right now. So it wasn't like he was playing bad, but it was the 2 big lineup. I mentioned Al Horford had 0 points tonight. He had 11 rebounds and 5 assists. Like Al Horford he still did a lot of work in this game without doing the normal stats that you would look at for him to see the 3-point shots. He took 2 shots the entire night, but was still making an impact with him and Rob Williams. That 2 big lineup was back to, having an impact. And so we wondered, would Marcus Smart be okay with that? And I think this gets back to a little bit of, I think it was Marcus who mentioned that Derek White and Brogdon got together before the postseason and said, hey, listen, we got one goal. We know that some nights it's going to be me and Derek. Some nights it's going to be Malcolm. There's going to be nights where one of us is probably going to have one or both or 2 of us are going to sit on the bench. And this was one of those nights. And it happened a little bit when they were making a comeback in game 3 as well. And I think that's a credit to Joe. Right? Like we've criticized Joe, and I think we're pretty fair about when we criticize when we do give him praise. But this is an area where, as much as I do have a couple of questions I'd like to ask about the Mike Muscala minute, literally the Mike Muscala minute, I'd like to ask a question about that.
New segment on the pod, the Mike Muscala minute.
Yeah. What's going on with Mike Muscala? But this was really a credit to Joe that he felt comfortable to make that move, and to Marcus for being able to accept that, knowing that he's had an impactful role throughout the game, and that right now that was just a move that was needed and called upon.
Yeah, and we've talked about that 2 big lineup and just how it hasn't had the same impact on the defensive end this year, and the offensive numbers just haven't been great. So that 2 big lineup, like with Marcus on the floor, it's kind of tough to run any sort of of a good offense. But when you take out Marcus Smart and you put Derek White in at the point guard, now that 2 big lineup just has one more floor spacer that the defenses have to respect a little bit more. Although Marcus has shot the 3 well in this series.
3 of 8 for Marcus in this game, 4 of 9 for Derek White. But Derek White, I mean, they've both been shooting the ball well in the series.
Yep. But with that double big lineup, just like having Derek White at the 1 allows that offense to have just a little bit more flow to it. Although Horford, seemingly isn't going to shoot the ball in this series.
It's kind of just a decoy, right? I don't even know. I mean, he hasn't really even touched the ball too much on offense, to be honest.
Yeah, he's just been a screen setter, honestly, and I think he had 5,
a little bit.
Yeah, 5 or 6 assists tonight. But I thought Al played a great game. It's just with that double big lineup, Marcus being willing to sit on the bench and Joe being willing to go to different lineups down the stretch. I texted you during game 3 and I was like, oh my God, he benched Marcus. It was only for a minute, but he took Marcus out at one point and they went Brogdon, White, the Jays, and I think Al or Rob, one of the bigs, was on the court as well. He only did that for 1 possession or 2 possessions and realized that he didn't really like how the defense was looking. But I love what I saw out of Marcus. I love what I've seen out of Joe so far in this series. I don't really have any complaints.
Yeah, no, I think this has actually been besides being a little bit confused with some of the Muscala, Grant Williams. Actually, let's talk about this just for a second while we're on Missoula. So Grant Williams was the first off the bench in game 3. Has a really good game 3. Tonight sees the court for under a minute. Muscala gets that random stint for a minute or so. Is this just Joe Mazzulla tinkering? Because it started to make sense that, okay, we're just not going to really see Grant or Muscala. It's not their series. Sam Hauser, things were looking great in games 1 and 2, but then we get a heavy dose of Grant Williams in game 3, nothing in game 4, a little sprinkling of Mike Muscala. Is this just, is this just Joe Mazzulla doing some crazy experimenting on the fly?
I think Joe's one of those guys that just needs a full season's worth of data to go into his little robot brain. But Will, I'm a little confused right now. Did we just get a tip? Is this what happened?
We
right
did.
Here?
Our guy Jacob's got us here. So Jacob, we're gonna get to that question here. That's part of our second segment that we got coming up here. So we're gonna put that in our back pocket for 1 minute, and we're gonna come right back to you. I got you, my guy.
Yeah, shout out Jacob for the question and for the tip. That's dope. So with Joe, I just think that towards the end of the season, you started to see him leaning more into the heavy Derek White minutes over Marcus Smart. We started talking about how Derek White was often leading the team in minutes in a lot of games, like him and Tatum are the top 2 minute getters in most games. And, with Joe, I just think he needed to see it. And Marcus was entrenched as the team's point guard for the past couple of years. He's the longest tenured Celtic on the roster. Derek White came onto this team halfway through the season last year. And sometimes it just takes a minute for coaches to realize oh, you know what, Derek White, I should probably listen to the fans or listen to the data and realize that this guy actually is the 3rd best player on this team.
You know what I think it is, Greg? I think he just listens to Green with Envy and he's like, you know what? I've heard enough. I think Greg and Will and Adam are onto something. Derek White is my 3rd best player. He should be out there most of the time.
If he listens to Green with Envy, that would be amazing. I do know that when this was formerly the Celtics blog podcast, Adam told us that he would get some feedback that there were some players and some members of the team that would tune into the pod every once in a while. So it's not unheard of. I don't think that what we say actually has an impact on what Joe's doing, but he's doing the right stuff. And that's great to see because Quinn Snyder is a veteran coach. He's made some great adjustments over the years as a head coach. And I think Mazzulla, for him to make these adjustments that he's making in the first round of the playoffs, when the stakes aren't very high right now, I don't know what would have had to gone wrong for the Celtics to lose the series. It's good to see because when we get into the series against the Sixers, when we get into the series against the Bucks, maybe we'll get there. We're going to need to have all of the different parts of the Swiss Army knife that we can pull out at any time, depending on what the situation calls for.
And with that, that's a good transition point here. I want to start to look ahead to game 4, and then we'll also talk about some of the other scenarios that we got, and we'll get to our guy Jacob's question here. 1 second. All right, Greg. So you just said it, right? We're starting to, now it's 3-1. First things first. Let's start with game 4 coming up on Tuesday. This feels like a must-win Celtics take care of business because of everything else that's going on around the Eastern Conference right now. First of all, would you agree with that statement? This is a must-win, time to take care of business at home.
Yeah, I think it is a must win, but I also don't think there's any chance the Celtics lose this game. The Celtics money line tonight was minus 275 for the Celtics just to win. And I was ready to bet all 275 to win that $100. That was pretty much guaranteed the Celtics are going to win tonight. If we lost game 5 at home to the Hawks, I would be absolutely astonished. I just don't see it happening. The Hawks' only chance to win in this series was going to be at home. And if they had won game 2, I would even been more game 3. I would have been more sure that the Celtics would have won this next game. So I got my games all mixed up, but I do know that the Celtics are going to win this next game.
Yeah, it feels like it's on the table for them. They got to come in here, slam the door shut, and take care of business, because that brings us to our guy here, our super question that we got in the chat here. 4 games into the playoffs, how we feeling about Boston versus any possible opponents moving forward? 76ers, Bucks with the Giannis injury. And then I like this little Suns Warriors final. So we'll put a pin on that one right there. We'll come back to that. But let's start with what is right now when you look at the Eastern Conference. The Bucks are down 2-1 to Miami. Giannis still listed as questionable going into tomorrow night's game. If you're listening to this on YouTube with us right now, if you're listening to it the day that it drops in a podcast form, will be tonight. He's listed as questionable. He was questionable for game 3, did not play. On the other side, the Sixers are home resting. They've gone and taken care of the Nets, but that MRI on Joel Embiid's knee came back as it didn't look good. They're going kind of the Kevin Garnett 2009 route, I think, where it's let's just hope and pray that it's not as bad as what we think it is. And, but it sounds like the sooner we start that series, the better it is for the Celtics. So in that case, taking care of business Tuesday could potentially lead to game one being Saturday or Sunday versus the Hawks drawing the series out. Maybe it pushes to Monday or Tuesday of next week if the Hawks can make that, which I don't think they can. But once again, it makes it imperative for the Celtics to go ahead and finish this out in game 5 at home on Tuesday night. So, Greg, let's start with the Sixers here. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, this Joel Embiid injury, once again, we talk about things breaking right for the Celtics. First, we get the Hawks. Now it looks like Joel Embiid's hurt. James Harden kind of came into the postseason already, not 100%. Yeah, they got the sweep, but I don't think they scared anybody in that Brooklyn Nets series.
Yeah, dude. And honestly, I'm not really worried about the Sixers, even if Joel Embiid is fully healthy. So I think what I actually want to talk about here is why it's so important to win game 5, because so many guys around the league are getting injured. And we have a few guys on our roster that we know are injury prone, right? All these guys around the league that have a history of getting injured, right? We see Joel Embiid go down. That's one of the biggest critiques of Joel Embiid. Every playoffs, he seemingly gets another injury. Kawhi Leonard every single year seems to get hurt. He's hurt again. He has another knee injury. We have a couple guys that have these histories of getting somewhat serious injuries, like Robert Williams, like Malcolm Brogdon, and that miss extended time. So we need to finish up this series against the Hawks so that we don't become another one of these teams out there. Seemingly half the league is missing some key guys. Look at the Timberwolves. Not that they were going to do anything, but Jaden McDaniels is out. Nas Reed is out. 2 very important parts of their rotation. And the Boston Celtics are looking around the league and we're probably the healthiest team right now.
Yeah. And that, like you said, this is the reason why game 5 is a must win. You cannot show up and not be focused for this game. You got to get this done. And I think they called it out on the broadcast tonight. You get this done on Tuesday, the NBA is not going to have these two teams sitting around for too long. They're going to put in, and we've seen the NBA do this before, where maybe there's some game 7s on Saturday and Sunday. You know what? They're going to throw in the mix because they want more TV. Game 1, Celtics Sixers. That's going to be Saturday or a Sunday matchup, prime time on ABC. You get those two fan bases. Let's not wait around. Let's not give Joel Embiid, an extra 24, 48, 72 hours to heal up. Let's make sure that he has to get going ASAP, and that leads to a massive advantage for the Celtics. And then when you look at what's happening with the Heat and Bucks, I mean, you and I touched on this last week. It was never a fear of losing to the Heat. It was the fear of, man, that's going to be a team we really got to work against, that they're going to punish us. And right now, I thought the Bucks, I mean, it's 2-1. A lot can still happen in that series. Without Tyler Hero, if I had to bet, I would still think, even though Miami kind of put a beat down on the Bucks the other night, I would still bet money even without Giannis. I feel like the Bucks can pull this off, but there's still that lingering doubt, right? And so the longer that series goes, the iffier Giannis's back is. This pathway for the Celtics is turning into a yellow brick road that they need to just continue that march down, and that starts on Tuesday night.
Now I'm just thinking about flying monkeys and little people. But I think
how easy it is to take your mind off the prize.
I think with Giannis,
appreciate the question, Jacob.
I don't think that the Bucks, as currently constituted without Giannis, actually are a better team than the Heat, just because of Jimmy Butler and Bam. I think Jimmy Butler right now is the best player in that series with Giannis being out, and then Bam Adebayo. Jacob. And Bam Adebayo, he can, be the best defensive player in any series that he plays in. That 2-man game that they run, Max Strus can be a problem if they dust off Duncan Robinson. I'm a big Gabe Vincent guy. Kyle Lowry has big game experience. So there's still a lot of guys on the Heat roster that can get the job done, even with Tyler Hero being down, even with Oladipo now being down with a knee injury.
Poor Oladipo, man. I know he wasn't going to make that big of a difference. It feels like when I have watched the Heat this year, he'll make a difference for about a 3 to 5 minute stretch, and then the rest of the game, not much. But it just sucks because he would do when he was finally hitting his all-star peak. he had some moments where it was like, damn, this dude's going to be really good, and just injury after injury. And it was so sad to see that happen the other night.
Yeah, man, it stinks. But I think with that series, Giannis will definitely be back at some point in that series,
Yeah.
right? It might not be for game 4. It might be for game 5. They're probably going to wait until it's like an elimination game, honestly, if Giannis is back is that serious, because theoretically they should be able to go in game 4 and steal that in Miami without Giannis. It might not happen though. Jimmy Butler is really that dude. We know that from experience. So I think what's an even more interesting question is when you look to the Western Conference, right? So let's talk about the Western Conference. I know you were watching the Warriors and Kings game today.
Yeah.
Were you not?
Of
What
course.
did you think? Dude, that is the most fun series in the entire playoffs right now.
It's no doubt the best series, and there's some good series. The Suns Clippers had a chance to be the best when Kawhi was healthy for those first couple games, and also whatever this revitalized Russell Westbrook that I'm cheering for all of a sudden after despising not him as a person. Obviously, this is sports we're talking about, but I've hated watching him play for the last 4-ish years, and he was so much fun to watch the other day. But to the Warriors Kings point, easily the funnest series in this first round. De'Aaron Fox has been amazing. Klay Thompson is
feeling pretty good about De'Aaron Fox on our Green with Envy first team.
Yeah, huh? That's looking like a good pick. That's aging really well. It does not feel like this is his first time in the postseason. This dude is playing far beyond that. He was amazing. Keegan Murray, who was our preseason choice for Rookie of the Year, had a really nice game today. On the Warriors side, they're doing a lot of the normal Warriors things, but seeing the Kings hang in there, I saw our friends over at the Light Years podcast. I saw them put out a question today on Twitter where they asked, obviously the Warriors won the championship last year. Are the Kings better than any of the Western Conference teams that the Warriors played last year on their run to the championship? And I'd have to go back and really think about it, but I just thought it was interesting that we're even having that discussion with a Kings team that, everybody kind of looked over as, hey, nice season, coach of the year. You're going to get De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, their postseason awards. But thanks for playing Warriors in 6 or whatever. And we got ourselves a series. Now, I do think it's very important. The Kings have to get game 5 at home.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't think, as much as I'm giving them praise right now and saying we're overlooked them, I can't believe that the Warriors are going to lose that game 6 at home. So the Kings have to get that game 5 back in Sacramento.
Well, I think the reason why that series is so fun is just the old boxing adage, right? Styles make fights.
Yeah.
And that's very, very apropos after the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight, which I'm sure you were so tuned into last night, Will.
Do I know what's funny? We were actually, we had some of Lorena, my girlfriend's family over last night, and that was actually the plan. That's why I texted you earlier today. I was going to invite you over because that actually was the plan. To watch it as a pay-per-view, but then once some people got over here, I found out only like her uncle wanted to watch it, so everyone else was trying to avoid mentioning the fight. And apparently I was in the bathroom, it got brought up, and his son was like, no, we gotta go. It's like, okay, I guess we're not watching the fight then.
It was a really good fight. Went 7 rounds. Tank ended up getting the liver shot knockout, which is I'm not like I'm a boxing fan, but I'm not like a huge boxing fan where I know every fight and the history of every fight. But it reminded me of that scene in The Fighter with the head body head, knock him in the body and put him down. But anyways, I digress.
Did you see? Well, while we're on this, are you a Chief Keef fan? No. Okay. Here's a few songs I like. Love Sosa is one of my favorite songs, and when I saw the clip of Tank Davis coming out to it, that got me pretty hyped. Just side note, that was one of the things that I did enjoy about the fight.
Okay, I didn't see the walkouts, but that's pretty cool. Yeah, the reason why I couldn't come over though, bro, we haven't talked about this. I was actually shooting a music video. Not sure if it's a full music video or if it's just like Instagram Reels content right now for Black Sheep. So,
nice.
Yeah, I'll send you the footage off air. But with that Warriors and King series, dude, it's just so much fun to see Steph Curry and Klay Thompson hit shot after shot, and for the Kings to be like, whatever, we'll just come back and get a layup in like under 5 seconds, sometimes under 3 seconds, wide open 3-point. Malik Monk just go like dangle on some people and finish over Draymond at the rim, like no big deal. Keegan Murray off a double pin down 3-pointer. Sabonis going like shoulder into 8 guys' chests.
Dude,
spin lefty hook over the right shoulder. He's a
bully, man. Sabonis, like I've watched some of. I think I've watched Sabonis in this type of an intense environment. Man, Dude, he is just a straight Brahma bull inside that lane. Just bull in a china shop type stuff.
Oh yeah, man. Their styles are so cool. And then Harrison Barnes. I know we touched on this in the last one, although he missed the 3 tonight. This is the most aggressive I've ever seen Harrison Barnes. And it's just really cool to see all these guys playing with an edge. That city is on fire. I can't wait for game 5. It's probably going to be pretty tense in there, but I think because it's so new for that team and for that city right now, I think it's just going to be electric. And I fully expect the Kings to win that game in game 5.
So speaking of cities that are on fire, the only crowd that rivals the Kings right now, Madison Square Garden. I know you had a game earlier. Did you have a chance to catch any of this Knicks Cavs game from today?
I caught the last maybe 5.5 minutes of the game where Josh Hart was the best player on the floor from what I saw.
Because that's so once again, so I was going to say this about Kevon Looney, role playing all-stars. That's Kevon Looney. That's exactly what Josh Hart is. And, Derek White might be in that mix. A bunch of guys that we could go through there. But Madison Square Garden, listen, man, Boston, we got to fucking bring it. That place is electric through the TV. It is from the very first tip all the way through the end. Every chance that there is an opportunity for momentum, those Knicks fans are going nuts. I saw they shut down like 7th Avenue after the game. They're up 3-1 in the goddamn first round, and they shut down an entire street in Manhattan, just rioting and going nuts. But the Knicks, man, the Knicks have been impressive. I haven't caught all of the games leading up to today. Today was the first time I got to watch a full game. I feel like a lot of their games have lined up with the Celtics as far as timing wise. And great RJ Barrett game. I don't really know what's going on with Julius Randle, but the rest of that Knicks team is really, really clicking. And you touched on Josh Hart, who one of my favorite role players around the league. He just is kind of just Johnny on the spot. He's just in the right place at the right time, getting an offensive rebound, knocking down a shot. We talked a little bit. We're talking about our side of the bracket, which certainly will include the Sixers and potentially the Bucks. But if this Giannis injury is actually that bad, Knicks now up 3-1 on the Cavs. We've been talking to our buddy Liptak, who's kind of our Knicks insider from a fandom perspective. There's a pathway. If you get Knicks Heat in the second round, it could be Knicks in that conference finals and, not the Bucks or Heat.
For sure. And you've never been to MSG, right?
I've never been. It's very high on my bucket list to go to.
Dude, you got to get to MSG. You got to get the one game I went to was the Paul Pierce buzzer beater against
and then the fake Amari buzzer beater.
Yes, I was at that game, dude. Unreal, but it's cool. One thing I like about MSG, I'm sure they still do it, but in their beers, they have a little hole in the handle and they put a pretzel inside the hole. So when you get a beer, you get a pretzel in there. I just like it. I thought it was cool.
Look how better pretzel. I like it. Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna pay $35 for a beer, you should get a pretzel for it.
I don't think they charge extra for the pretzel. They probably do. It's a sports.
I'm just saying beers are expensive, but if you get a pretzel with it, it's a nice.
It's like a little present for you. You get your beer, and then you're like, oh yeah, I got my pretzel here too. Or you're like, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
And based on the crowd, there were a lot of beer pretzels being drank at that game today. I think it was a noon start or a 1 p.m. start, and I'm sure Tracy Morgan and Pete Davidson, all the other celebrities that were in the crowd, there was a lot of beer pretzels going around.
Dude, I don't know what it is about the playoffs, but it just makes me want to drink beer. Like I've been out on beer for like pretty much since the summertime. And maybe it was because the Celtics made it all the way to the finals and we were just like putting back whiskey and putting back beer like every other night of the week. But during these playoffs, I'm just like, I just want to throw back a couple brews with the boys, So
Dude,
we definitely got to get together. Maybe next time the Celtics play on a weekend, we should get together.
Yeah, if we get a game 1 this weekend, your boys got the bachelor pad, so we'll swing it over to my place. We were at your place last time. We'll swing it over to my place. Just cleaned up the backyard, got the grill ready to go. So we'll get it popping over here for that. But yeah, Cavs Knicks got a chance to close that out this week. That was a series that from a Cavs perspective, Donovan Mitchell just had a disaster of a game. I think he either finished with 9 or 11 points. Darius Garland went off in the second to start the second half to get the Cavs even back into it. But I think really the lack of depth for the Cavs has really hurt them. And the star turn that you and I were really betting on with Evan Mobley, it's still coming, but it hasn't been.
Yeah, playoffs.
Not this playoffs. I mean, him and Allen have been outplayed by Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein in the series, and that's probably even more than the depth. That's probably the number one reason why the Knicks are up 3-1, looking to go back to the second round for the first time in I gotta think maybe 12 years. God, that's crazy. That's
It's good for
insane.
dude.
It's great for them.
I'm happy for the Knicks. I'm happy for Lip Tack. Let's let them get into the second round of the playoffs. They're
I'm
more
just saying.
fun. They're more fun. MSG is more fun than
Oh, I
Cleveland,
always
right?
want them to be there. I'm just saying it's crazy that they haven't been to the second round in something like 12 years. Like,
Yeah.
that's a mind-blowing stat to think about. But a lot of fun happening here. We got Tuesday night. It's going to be Celtics, Hawks. Hopefully the Celtics are going to close that out. After the game, Greg and I will be back here. For this episode, though, let's take a quick break, and then we'll do what we always do here on a Sunday, and we'll hit y'all with our vibe check. All right. Time to do what we do here. And shout out to our guy, Winfred, because this is how we're feeling too. C's got me feeling good, feeling great. I ain't ever coming down. My man.
Yeah, Winfred.
My man,
Winfred knows the deal.
He's
He
feeling
knows
right
the drill,
now.
Will.
He
knows the drill.
definitely knows the drill. So with that, let's cue up our vibe check here. All right, Greg. Sunday night here. Celtics up 3-1. As we talked about, feeling good, feeling great. We ain't ever coming down. We're only moving on and moving forward. That's what we're looking for here. But what's your vibe check for this weekend?
Betting with the boys, baby. I'm back. I had no money in my account since that horrible beat that I caught when the Miami Dolphins had a
this is a
full game over of like 30.5. They scored 30 in the first half and then got shut out in the second half. I had so much money on that game.
An irresponsible amount of money.
Irresponsible amount of money on that game. So I had $0 in my account. And I was like, I need to take a break from betting. But then Malcolm Brogdon comes through, 6th man of the year. I win like 5 out of my 6 futures bets for NBA over under. All of a sudden, I've got $100 back in my account. Now I'm back up to like almost $300 in my account. And I'm like, let's go. Let's make sure I have enough money to bet throughout the rest of the playoffs. If I end up losing it by the end of the playoffs, that's cool. I had already lost this money. I just got it back.
This is the definition of playing with house money.
Exactly. And I came up with some phrase earlier that I said to Matt, ride, I think it was ride the hot hand. And if you can't, if it's not hot, find an oven. That's I just made that up today.
That's where I'm at. I'm trying to find an oven, man. I got an oven. Is there an oven detector, like a metal detector that I can find that? Because I can't find it. I mean, listen, I hit big on the Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon, appreciate you, my guy. Our 6th man of the year. My wallet was basically drained. And then Malcolm Brogdon replenished it to a level that it hasn't seen before. So I went very heavy on the Malcolm Brogdon 6th man of the year. It's paying off. 115 on Malcolm. Let's go, Jacob. That's our guy right there. Went big on Malcolm. That helped. Today, Jason Tatum with a last second heave for his 4th 3-point shot. Hit that. Oh, dude, nice, I thought I was out. So here's the thing. So today I bet the line was over 3.5 3-pointers for Jason Tatum. I thought about, what's Tatum's shot selection been like recently? It's like, he's probably going to take about 10 to 11 3-pointers. I was like, really? He just needs to go 4 of 11. This is a game the Celtics really need. That feels very doable. He was 3 of 10. He missed the 11-3, and I was like, damn, that was exactly what I was counting on. And then we got an end of the shot clock, had to throw it up somewhere halfway between the line and the logo, and splash. Your boy at least took 1 for the day because he was 1 for 5. Nothing else hit. So needed at least that to feel good. So hopefully getting back on that winning train, on that winning field. That's the goal for the rest of the postseason here.
Definitely. Yeah. I hit my JB over 25.5 points today. I was expecting Horford to have a couple buckets. His over for points was 8.5. So I bet the Horford over. So I missed that. But last game, dude, I was on fire last game. I had Trae Young over 24.5. Trae Young for the first bucket of the game at like plus 800. Saddiq Bey over 1.53. Saddiq Bey over 8.5 points. The game before that, I had Malcolm Brogdon over 18.5 combined points, rebounds, and assists. He basically had it at halftime.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's keep riding this. And then I made the mistake the other night of feeling hot. So I ended up betting on the Timberwolves money line, which was stupid because it was pretty much even money. And with even money, I should have just put it on the team that's clearly better. So yeah, that was the one bet I lost, and then I lost the Horford.
Wait, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Was that bet after you had already won several bets and you're like, one more, baby,
Yeah.
feeling hot? Yeah, that late night, you're feeling good, feeling a little too good, a little too great.
Yeah. But I only put 1 unit on it, so it wasn't a big deal.
Okay. Gotcha. But yeah, I think we've all been in that position before where we've hit a couple and we're up late night and we're like, actually, this is where the Kings came in play a lot early in the season, where it was like, you know what? I've already won. I was hitting on that Celtics in the over. Celtics money line in the over was crushing the first 25 games of the year. And there'd be a couple times we're just watching late night. Oh yeah, De'Aaron Fox over 25 points. Let's go for it. Of course, wouldn't usually hit because that was the one too many bet. Never do the one too many bet, but that's what gamblers do. That's what happens. That's what gambling people do.
This isn't equivalent, but that reminds me of in 30 Rock when Jack Donaghy says to Liz Lemon, he's like, never follow a hippie to a second location.
Dude, I haven't been rewatching that, but I've been throwing it on sporadically. That show is so freaking funny. I love it.
Oh, season 1, Tracy Morgan's unbelievable.
Oh, I just saw the one where he realizes that he can use pretending to be illiterate to get out of working. Like, he won't read the cue cards because he can't read. Well, that's a little racist. No, he literally can't read. And then he shows him like reading the paper inside the elevator. But great show, 30 Rock. If you haven't watched it, go binge it. You should. You're missing out. All right, my vibe check. I wasn't really sure what to do. I had a gambling one here because I've been a little cold. But you know what? We just talked about some gambling. You know what? This is going to be for our guy, Adam, because, with some of these games now we're doing these live reaction shows right afterwards. It's a little tough for our guy to get on because it's the middle of the night right now. He's got to get his beauty rest, but we're going to make sure we got him in the mix here. But he's not forgotten. So tonight, had a cup of tea with the episode. Little cup of tea. Not going to lie. I've been trying to find a good nighttime beverage. So usually my routine is coffee in the morning. Coffee up until about noon is roughly 11 a.m.
Wait, like exclusively coffee?
I mean, I'll have like a cup of water, like some sips of water when I first get up. But
how much coffee are you putting down a day, dude?
Let me see. It's like 1 to 2 cups.
Okay.
So I use the Yeti cup. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. So if I use a regular coffee cup, that thing's done in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But with a Yeti coffee cup, it's going to keep it hot, so I don't drink it as fast, and I can kind of elongate it throughout the morning. So typically, it's 1 to 2 cups. If we record, usually, if I have an early morning meeting or podcast, and it turns into 2 cups because I just get nervous with my hands when I'm on camera. So I just drink more, and then I'm like, okay, I need 1 more cup of coffee.
You would think you'd be used to it doing the pod.
Nope, never get used to it. My hand, it's literally the Ricky Bobby. I don't know what to do with my hands is how I feel every time that there's a camera on, no matter the situation. So usually I go coffee in the morning, then it's pretty much water all day up until about 5 or 6. Then I'll have probably some type of, whether it's a Waterloo, Rambler, Poland Spring Seltzer, whatever the, flavor of choice is, have 1 or 2 of those maybe. And then I'm always trying, you got Topo Chico in your hand right now for those that are listening on the podcast. And I've been trying to find, all right, what's that sweet spot? Because like water, I just want something else besides water. Water's fine, but I want something else. But drinking too much carbonated water late, then you start to get a little burpy. Like, I don't know. It's not fun sitting around at 10 p.m. burping.
Yeah, not sexy either.
Yeah, exactly. You try to parlay this into any type of like nighttime activities. It's not the best look. So, I've been trying to find what's that right mix without having to make it booze. You know what I mean? They can't be boozing every night. Like we just talked about, it's good in moderation at the right time. So I've been trying to mix in some tea, man. So I got this calming tea that I found that like kind of like great for like nighttime, get you ready for bed. It's soothing. Big fan of it, man. So shout out to our guy Adam Taylor here, man. He's always talking about that tea game. So I'm gonna have to get some insider tips from him on what the best tea tips and tricks are. But that's my vibe check of the week. Going with tea.
Okay, so are you using Sleepy Time tea?
I forget the name of the brand. It's literally just the type of it is called calming. I forget what the brand name is, but
there is like an actual brand.
I've heard of that before. It might be. I don't remember what the brand name is though.
Yeah, Sleepy Time tea is good.
Oh no, it's on here. It's Yogi tea is what I'm using.
Okay, yeah. I think that's a pretty popular brand.
Yeah.
So I was never a big tea at night guy, but when I was a kid, so you ever had those like tea cookies that you just like dip little cookies into tea?
I know what you're talking about. I'm sure I've had them. They usually come in that blue tin that every like old woman always had on the table.
So those are
Like
butter
every old
cookies.
woman, it was a staple. If you
Yeah,
were
and then it would
above
eventually be
72,
the sewing stuff would eventually be in there. Yeah,
if you're above
exactly.
72, it's legally mandated that you have this tin on your table.
Yeah. So those are butter cookies. So it's pretty much the same thing. These are like shortbread tea cookies. So
Okay.
there are a couple of tea biscuits that I used to like. I used to fuck with social tea cookies. And then as I got older, my mom just, how sometimes your mom will like go to the grocery store and come back with like the same thing, but a different brand. You're just like, what the fuck is this? Why did you
It
just split
shatters
this
your
up?
whole world. It's like, so you could have got Chips Ahoy, but instead you got Cookies Delight, and they're like
Yeah.
literally the same thing. But
Yeah. For me, I was always Entenmann's, and my mom would come home sometimes with the Chips Ahoy. I'd be like, Mom, why not just get the fucking Entenmann's box? You know what I'm saying? It's like this is the same thing with my tea cookies. But this was the one time where I was like, oh, Mom knows what's up because she got the Lorna Doones. And then now to this day, I prefer Lorna Doone tea cookies over social tea cookies. So that's my tea for the day.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Had something to say, and now it's gone out of my brain because it's getting late and the tea's getting to me. And
Wait,
I think
can I clarify something earlier? Because I feel like
yeah.
Jacob didn't understand why I mentioned the flying monkeys and the little people.
Is that what's been on your mind this
I've been
entire
thinking
time?
about this entire time. So Will mentioned he said the Celtics were on like a yellow brick road, which made me think of the Wizard of Oz, which then made me think of all of the things involved with the Wizard of Oz. And then inevitably, when I think of the Wizard of Oz, it comes down to three things. It comes down to the flying monkeys. Comes down to the little munchkin people, and it comes down to tornadoes. And tornadoes have haunted my dreams since I was like 3 years old because I was sitting around watching Wizard of Oz with my family when I'm the baby in my family, so everybody was older than me. I remember having the Wizard of Oz on at the house, and I would have nightmares about tornadoes and about little fucking flying monkeys coming to steal me out of my bed in the middle of the night. And I still have those nightmares to this day.
I remember when Greg and I moved from Boston to Austin, we were driving through, and I had no idea that you were afraid of tornadoes because it's not really a thing that we ever had to talk about in Boston. And we had gotten somewhere down south. This is, we're 22, 23 years old. And, this is before, we had iPhones, but I think we were still using like you had to like buy a separate GPS basically to put in your car. And I remember wherever we were, like we could clearly tell rain was coming in. And I think I was driving and I kept looking over to the right, and you kept ducking to like look up into the sky as much as you could. I was like, dude, what are you looking for? You're like, I don't know, man. Doesn't look good. Might be a tornado. I was like, what makes you qualified to think that like some rain coming in means a
Dark
tornado's
clouds.
coming?
That's it.
And it was basically just, we were somewhere in, I don't know, probably like North Carolina or Alabama or something. You're just like, we're in the South now. It probably means a tornado's coming. So that's where I learned about Greg's fear of tornadoes. So,
and it's all because of the Wizard of Oz.
All because of the Wizard of Oz. But well, this is a fun episode. Late night gets a little weird here, gets fun. We appreciate everybody that joined us on YouTube today for joining in the chat. We appreciate y'all shouting us out. For those of you listening on the podcast, make sure that you are following us on YouTube as well. Come join us for one of these episodes. We'll be doing these most games right after the Celtics. Throughout the playoffs, we'll be joining y'all live here. So make sure that y'all are tapping in when you can. But that's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. Greg, any final words and tell the people what we're going to hear?
Y'all know the drill. Black Sheep Optimist, Skywalking. Peace, everybody.
Peace, y'all.